this is the OnePlus 9 5G. At this point, I just want to make it clear, let's drop 5G from the name. All brands listen to me and just drop the 5G name. We know it has 5G. So the OnePlus 9, surprisingly not the 9 Pro. I usually get the Pro or the higher end OnePlus phones, but this time around, I did not think that the Pro was really worth what they were asking and just way too similar to the 8. So I got the 9 instead because I thought the value proposition this served was really interesting, and really to say, it sits in a very good place competition-wise because you've got the S20 FE, the Galaxy S21, a bunch of other Android phones sitting right there in that $700 to $800 spot. So let's see how good it actually is. Of course, the box on the front, very nice, clean, simple look. Got OnePlus embossed, and it is this nice shiny red, which when you move around in the light, it does change and reflect. I like that. Co-developed with Hasselblad at the bottom. So of course they've gone all in with Hasselblad this year. This is, you know, what I've said before, a marketing stunt more than an actual phone edition. But really the box is nice and simple. Black down here, red on the top, a really clean look. So what I got was the base variant. So this is a 8 gig, 128 gig model. And I got it in the purple mist color. So is it called purple mist? Winter mist. So it's winter mist, but it's like this whitish purple, which I think looked really cool. So let's go ahead, lift it out of the box. So you see right there, the design looks really interesting. I am happy they changed it up from last time. Last time, the OnePlus 8 Pro looked even more generic than this, but this at least looks interesting. Not a fan of Hasselblad written right there on the camera. I'll show you that in a second. Let me put this off to the side, and I'll be honest, this phone is a little bit smaller than I thought it would be. I thought it would be a little bit bigger. So here we have cardboard tray, never settle, written right here, and there is a pull tab, so I can lift this out. At the bottom here, we've got a charger, which is actually a 65-watt charger, which is very interesting given the times that most companies are removing chargers from the box. OnePlus still seems to be pretty consistent with their charging. Now, I'll talk about this later, but it's cool that they have the charger in box, and it's cool that they finally moved to a USB-C charger input instead of the USB-A, which was so behind the times. So USB-C to C cable, again, the first time we're seeing a USB-C to C cable on an OnePlus device. You always usually get USB-A to C. Let me put this box off to the side, nothing else in here. Here, I'm sure we're going to have more paperwork and stuff in this white box, and of course, there's quite a lot. Is there anything else in here? Not just a tray. So you've got welcome guide, never settle. You've got a SIM card tray and a message. Cool. As I do every time, I will read the message. So if you guys want to skip, I'll put the tag right here, the time somewhere on the screen. But let me go ahead and read this. Hi there. This is the new OnePlus phone, and it's all yours. What's in the box is the achievement of countless people, not just within OnePlus, but from a global community of users. We made it to be your best shot, to work, live, and play as you want to see your world through a new lens and connect with people near and far. All with peerless performance, incomparable design, and a camera technology built upon the iconic Hasselblad legacy. We listen, we collaborate, we create, and then we do it all over again. With each new edition of OnePlus devices, we are striving to make our modern technology more truly what we all hope it can be. We want to hear from you. Reach out to us, whether online or through the community app on your phone, and help shape the next generation of technology with us. Never settle, keep. So just, you know, these feel more and more generic as every year goes along, but overall, at least a nice little message from the CEO, Pete Lau. Now, I do have to say, you know, recently I've not been a fan of with many decisions and ways that OnePlus has kind of taken their company, but, you know, it is what it is. We'll talk about that in a later video. So quick start guide, safety information, SAR values, and a bunch of stickers. These are cool. I like them. So let me go ahead and put this stuff off to the side. And I do also want to just point out that the box seems a little bit unnecessarily big. Like, the charger is this big. So, you know, if you squeeze the charger over here and you squeeze this over here, let's say like that, let's just see, put it over there, and you put the phone in there, you can cut off almost this entire top section of the box. Like, this is unnecessarily large. And, you know, I like the quality of the box is really good. Given, you know, how poor some of the Samsung boxes and everything have been recently, I will commend OnePlus for their quality of box. It feels really good and they've done a good job. So let's take a look at the phone itself. You know, it does come in this plastic wrap. So let me go ahead and remove this. It does have a screen protector on the front, has a flat display, and it really does feel similar to the OnePlus Nord. When I'm just looking at it head on, it does feel quite similar to it. So I have the OnePlus Nord right here, and you guys can see size-wise, they're way closer than I thought they would be. I really expected the 9 to be a lot bigger, so that's interesting. I do find that cool. Let me go ahead and remove the sticker, and already, I really like this purple finish. It's definitely the year of purple, I feel like. But one thing I'm finding very annoying right off the bat is look at the smudges. It's already smudging up, and I barely touched it. I barely did. So this is gonna be a little bit of a pain to keep clean and maintain, but it is what it is. You know, with more companies moving towards matte finish like the Samsungs, I don't know why OnePlus went with a gloss finish here, but it is what it is. I do like it. You know, as I say, it looks like it's the year of purple, and this phone looks pretty interesting. So for you guys, it looks almost silverish gray. To me, it looks very deep purple from the angle I'm sitting at. So the camera isn't doing this color justice. You know, on the edges, it's a really like dark pink from the light I'm looking at. So camera is not going to do us justice, like almost orange now. So that's one thing, I will say that. Let's move on to this camera right here. So this is one of the main party tricks of this new OnePlus phone. They have worked with Hasselblad, a very well-known still photography company, still photography camera manufacturer, to bring camera improvements. Now, from the videos I have seen from other people, I have found the results to be quite average and not up to the hype, but I will kind of keep my opinions limited right now and go into it further in the review. But OnePlus, I'll just say this, even when the hype was going on and announced, I wasn't sold on it because I know OnePlus's strategy is always hype, overhype, underdeliver. So let's go ahead and turn on the phone. Another thing I want to talk about here is that OnePlus has moved from a metal frame to a plastic frame on the phone here, on the OnePlus 9, which is similar to the OnePlus Nord. The back is glass, but the sides are plastic, which I think was a little bit of a weird combination. I would have personally preferred, you know, a plastic back here like the S21 and a metal frame, an aluminum frame, because I feel the frame is something that's way more likely to take abuse, and a metal aluminum frame would just, you know, it would be a lot more stronger, and I just feel like that would be a good move. And a glass back now, I feel like it's starting to come to the point where I think it's more of a problem than a premium thing, because it cracks, it's a problem. Plastic doesn't crack, and it just, for phones in this price range, I feel like durability should be very high on the list. So let's go ahead and look at the front of the screen. I'm sorry, the front of the phone. Bezels are pretty good. You know, they're quite uniform all around. They are thicker than the S21. I will give it that. But the size, the consistency seems to be much more than previous OnePlus phones. It is thick, but it's consistent. So I can appreciate consistency here. There is that punch hole on the top left. And the flat display does look good. I like it. No, you know, it's just with OnePlus, I don't know why they have gone with curved displays so late in the game and stuck with them. But this looks good. I like the way it feels. And it feels good in the hand. It's surprisingly, even though it's heavy, it doesn't feel heavy in the hand. It feels quite well balanced. And the look of the phone and the feel of the phone in the hand, it's great. So let me go ahead, set this up, use it for a couple minutes, and then give you guys my initial impressions. All right, so I've spent the last hour or so with the OnePlus 9, and here's my initial impression. So right off the bat, after setting up, there was an over-the-air update. I updated the phone. It was about 500 MB, and there was a bunch of little tweaks, so I got it out of the way. And I've been using the phone, and overall, I've got a few thoughts. So right off the bat, let me talk about the way it feels in the hand. So this phone is pretty decently sized. It's a 6.55-inch display, and it's actually thicker than I thought it would be. You know, even in the way it looks on camera and in photos, it doesn't. I didn't think it would be as thick as it is, but in the hand, it definitely feels hefty. It's quite thick, especially coming from the S21. it definitely does feel a little bit thicker. But the build quality is there, even though you do use a plastic frame, it feels every bit as high quality as any other phone. There's no panel gaps, there's no issues with creaking, fit, or finish, you know, there's no flex any way. The build quality is really good. Moving on, let's talk about the display. So the display is a 6.55 inch AMOLED screen. It's got 120 hertz refresh rate, and it's got a 1080p max resolution. Looks pretty good. The colors are nice. They pretty much were on par with you know, the Samsung S21. I did watch a couple of videos, and one thing I did come away realizing was that it seems there's just not as much sharpness here compared to some other phones I've seen. It's not bad, and most people won't notice it, but just because I look at so many different screens throughout the day, I can spot, you know, issues like this quicker than most other people. Though to its advantage, it gets quite bright. It's got 1100 nits of peak brightness, which is very respectable, and for outdoor use, that should be no problem whatsoever. So overall, display is a pretty good panel. It does have that 120 Hz refresh, as I said, but it is variable, so it will kind of switch up and down. So far, I haven't been able to notice. There have been no stutters or lag drops, anything like that so far, but I'll keep an eye on for that as I test out further. Another thing I wanted to mention was the fingerprint scanner. So it is a in-display optical sensor, which is at the very bottom of the screen. You guys can see right there. It seems to be such an odd location to put it at the bottom, you know, and not just the bottom, but the very, very far bottom. Usually phones have them right about here, the kind of bottom third of the phone, but this has it really at the much lower bottom. And just to give you guys an idea, here's the Galaxy S21. In comparison, it's right there. So if I hit it right there, it's right there, compared to this where it's like at the absolute bottom. So let me go ahead and compare both right there, and you guys can see it's, you know, night and day difference there with the location placement. And I'm sure I'll get used to it at some point, but it just feels like they could have done a better job with the placement. You know, just move it up a little bit so that it's a little bit more comfortable and comes more naturally. Another thing that I noticed while we were talking about the S21 is, you guys might have noticed there's a white screen on here, and the reason I have a white screen pulled up, let me just go ahead and pump up the brightness a little bit here, is to show you guys that the bezels are actually, even though I complimented them, they're actually, I found that the S21 has much thinner bezels, and it's noticeable. Like, after a couple minutes, I was like, wow, actually, that's a big difference when I put them side by side. The OnePlus 9 isn't bad by any measure. It's a pretty good, you know, bezel size, but just looking at the S21, it feels more futuristic, and it has a completely flat display. The OnePlus 9 does have curved glass at the end. It doesn't have a curved display, but it does have curved glass, which I'm not really a big fan of. I would have just preferred an absolutely flat panel of glass. It just feels better, and the S21 has definitely shown that it's a nicer way to go, and I really do wish OnePlus had made that choice themselves, but it's you know, it is what it is. So let's move on and talk about one of the most hype things about this, and that would be this Hasselblad camera setup. Now, the camera itself is pretty decent. I took a couple of pictures, tested out the various modes and all. Looks like it's a pretty decent camera. The one thing I will say, though, that I am a little bit disappointed with has to be the camera decision with this monochrome. So there's 3 cameras on the back. The main camera, the wide angle is a 50 megapixel, I'm sorry, a 48 megapixel. The ultra wide is a 50 megapixel. And then the third camera here is a 2 megapixel monochrome sensor, which is basically a useless sensor. There's no real use for that. And the only reason it's here is so that OnePlus can tell people they have 3 cameras on this phone. It's just for marketing. There's no purpose, no real use. And it just feels like such a annoying thing to do. And, you know, what adds to the further, you know, what bugs me more is, let me go ahead and open the camera app up here. And while you guys can see the camera app looks very familiar, the only real difference is that orange shutter camera, you know, which is a throwback to Hasselblad cameras. The one thing you'll see is that right here with the modes, there's 3 modes, which is something that's really common on most phones. But the difference here is that, you know, there's the 1X, which it does have a wide-angle camera, so it's going to have the 1X. It has the 0.6X, which is the ultra-wide, which, again, it has that sensor. But if you look over here, there's a 2X. Now, what that's doing is, I think why I don't like it here is that it's going to give people a false sense of, oh, I have a telephoto camera on here, and they look on the back, and yeah, look, I've got 3 cameras. So of course, 3 cameras, 3 modes, that makes sense. That's all but reasonable. But no, you know, that third camera is nothing. What they're doing is they're just zooming in on the main camera, and that's a digital zoom, not an actual telephoto optical zoom, which I think, you know, just it feels like they shouldn't have done this. It just, I don't like the decision making process here. Just put in two cameras. Why are you so shy? Apple gets away with it. They have two fantastic cameras at the back of their phone. They don't mess around. They don't give you sensors that aren't necessary. So why are you going to that extra length? And I know exactly why they're doing it. It's because their competition, the S20 FE and the S21, they have three cameras, but the three cameras on these phones are actually three different lenses. You know, you've got the ultra wide, the wide, and the telephoto, compared to the this phone, which only has the wide and ultra wide. It just, as I'm saying, it feels disingenuous. Don't do that. I don't like that about it. Moving on from the camera, and by the way, the photo samples, they were pretty decent. I'm going to do a little bit more of an in-depth test on these in a different video. Moving on, let me talk about the speakers and the experience when watching content, consuming content. I watched a couple of YouTube videos. The quality was very good on the display, but the speakers, they felt a little bit tinny. They just didn't have the bass and the surround that you know, some other phones do. The top speaker is definitely not pulling its weight. The bottom speaker is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, I felt. And one of the big things I also found was that the audio, even though it's very loud, the quality just doesn't feel like it's there. It feels quite tinny. And I would have gladly traded off a little bit of the loudness for quality. But it is what it is. It's not bad by any measure, but just doesn't stack up to some of the other phones in this price range. And moving on to some more positive notes, I love that OnePlus still has their alert slider. I think every phone should have an alert slider, and I'm baffled that other companies still haven't gotten onto this trend, even though Apple and OnePlus have been doing this for years, and every single customer always raves about how good it is to have that. A power button on the right side, the volume buttons on the left side, and again, a feature I always appreciate when companies have the power and volume button on separate sides, because one, easy to know where it is without having to look at all, and two, very easy to take single-handed screenshots that I think that, you know, most companies really don't care about. That, you know, I don't know why, but just like, all right, you take your screenshots with two hands. Why are you being so, I don't know, but it's just, it's easy. The top is pretty clean. You've got a speaker, and on the bottom, you've got your speaker, the mic, and your USB-C port and the SIM card slot. But overall, I think that this phone is very interesting. It does sit in its price range pretty well. It's got some very interesting design choices. It's got some very good specs and features, but the thing I'm going to be looking further into is the camera, trying to verify if, you know, this camera is worth the hype and if it stacks up to the S21. You know, I think it's one of the biggest competitors it has, and let's see if it stacks up to it. If you have any questions about the OnePlus 9, let me know down in the comments below. As I said, I'm overall feeling positive about this phone, but I will hold my overall opinion until I've tested the phone more. And if you have any suggestions or any ideas for videos on the OnePlus 9, please let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to see what you guys think. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow me on social media. I'll have all my handles right here on the screen, and of course down in the description as well. There's some behind the scenes stuff of me messing up some of the filming here, but it's always fun to check out over there. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.